Of all things Americans are, we are makers. Strengths in our minds and spirit. We gather, we form, and we fashion. Makers and shapers and put-it-togetherers. We start young, finding out early in life what it's like to feel something grow and take shape beneath our hands. We start young and we stay young, modeling with careful pride the things we expect to endure for ourselves and for others. We build for use, and we build in fun, joining eyes and hands and brains into knowing teams that bring great dreams to life. We build for the day, and we build for the morrow, for our children, for their children, and for the future of America. Look to the land and look to the sea. Wherever you may look in this world, you're apt to find something that got there because some American found a good way to put it together. A longer, higher bridge across a wider span of water. A slender missile driven into space, reaching across the oceans and reaching for other worlds. As makers of today and shapers for tomorrow, we Americans seem to share an inborn understanding of how to go about making the things we want. Whether we're reaching for the moon, hobbying in the home, doing our part on a convenience to be enjoyed, or preparing a tasty tidbit, we're all of us makers. All of our different ways of making to the differing tastes of others are not all so very different after all. We make by moving materials, getting what we need in the right place to work. We make by removing material, getting rid of what isn't needed. We make by shaping, just so. We make by adding material to material. We make by combining. And then by applying our finishing touches. By testing and testing again to make sure what is finished meets with our own approval and earns the customer's liking for what is done. With our craftsmanship and our conscientious control, we build for utility and for eye appeal and for satisfaction at every step of the way. That's the way we make things. Make them right and make them to the user's satisfaction. With youthful enthusiasm, we make things with pride. And into whatever we make, we try to model a satisfying usefulness and some measure of beauty. Oncoming, attractive, useful products, well made. More and more products acceptable to the more and more exacting demands of of more and more Americans. All in our own personal choices of colors, models, sizes, styles, price ranges, and types. Better made, more dependable, more nearly trouble-free than products made in any such quantities anywhere else in the world. All a part of the beauty produced so bountifully for you and for me by our American makers. There was a time when many of our needs had to be imported from other countries. But now, American needs can be filled by Americans. American desires met by products American, made the American way, and by makers American. The American maker works for tomorrow as well as today, and he has a host of new products in store for us. Some of them ready for immediate viewing. Some of them are visible in the nearer distance, while others yet remain a dream of the future, but all of them on their way to us. Oncoming, attractive, useful products. Automatic highways with cars and buses that drive themselves. Compact new cars. Battery-powered transistorized TV that is really portable. Panel TV to hang on the wall like a picture. All these and more and more. We Americans have always been makers, and in the beginning, we had to be. When America was young, we learned how to make the things we needed because there was no other way to get them. We worked with our hands, and our hands served us well. At the blacksmith's forge and the potter's wheel, we learned honest craftsmanship. At the spinning wheel and the loom, we studied patience. And the greatest patience most of us learned was the patience to see to it that what we were making was good. Then, looking again to make sure what we had made would serve, and serve well. In early America, men with the skills to do the things that needed doing were few in number. Craftsmen we had, but each could make only enough for his own family and for perhaps a few of his neighbors. We had little, But we knew much of want, of shortages, of make do or do without, of even the necessities. There wasn't enough to go around. As our numbers increased and our wants multiplied, easier, quicker, better ways of doing things had to be found. Young we were, youngest in the family of nations, when a Yankee craftsman named Eli Whitney showed us how to do something about it, something that never in all the world had been done before. Already a famous man as inventor of the labor-saving cotton gin, Eli Whitney had been given a contract by Congress to produce 10,000 muskets. Now his time was almost up.
Mr. Whitney, we gave you a contract for 10,000 finished pieces. What do you mean by bringing us all these bits and parts?
Gentlemen, I am offering you something far more valuable than muskets. I am offering my country a new method of producing on a mass scale. You see, it takes years to train a workman to produce a completed article from start to finish. But it takes only a few days to train him to do a single part of the job. The solution, gentlemen, is to divide the labor. Divide and specialize. One man to make one part, one to make another. Each to do what each can do best.
Ridiculous. Impossible. Parts made by different people will never fit together.
They will, sir. They will. If each part is made exactly like every other.
Each of these pieces are made by a separate man.
Exactly.
Eli Whitney didn't have a word for it, but we call it interchangeability. Interchangeability of parts. A Yankee craftsman had laid down the basic principle of modern mass production. Divide and specialize. One man to make one part, one to make another. Each to do what each can do best. A new method of dividing the labor to let the American maker work more quickly and efficiently, meet the ever-increasing demand for more goods, producing on a scale the world never before had known. The seed of mass production had been planted. But even so, we still had far to go before we could begin to reap the harvest. Our tools were simple, and for power we had only our own muscles, or the force of falling water, and maybe a turn from the wind. And then, the next great forward stride for the American maker came with the coming of a new source of mighty power. Unlimited new power to multiply thousands of times the productive energy of every man and create a revolution in the tools to be used. Tools to extend the power and fineness of his hands. High-speed tools to turn, to bore, to drill, to mill. Tools to plane, to shape, to slot, to grind, to forge, to form with an accuracy and a precision impossible to the finest of handcraft. Tools that hold the work you're working on. Tools that hold the tool you're working with. With all the wonderful tools that have been invented to help the American maker get more from his day's work and more for it, every bigger, better, and faster tool has given new abilities to the man who uses it, advancing from simple hand tools to great electric-driven complex machines. As more and more of us join American teams, there are more and more others of us who are investing hard-earned savings to help buy the newer and better and bigger tools we now need. To supply the conveniences for modern living, the products we create and build grow ever more complex. Today's automobile, for example, may call for as many as 14,000 parts. And each part must be as precise as thousands of pairs of hands and eyes and thousands of human brains can make it, if the final product is to be just about trouble-free. No one plant or single factory can make all the many kinds of parts. It takes thousands of separate suppliers. And in every supplier plant, each man and woman must work with a feeling of responsibility toward the eventual owner of what it is he's helping to make. On the conscientious contributions of every single one of them depend the success and reliability of what is made by others and the satisfaction of all the others who use them. The fundamental freedom of America is our freedom of choice. All of us want our choices in whatever we buy. Our personal choices of color, of model, of trim, of engine, transmission, or steering, as well as of radios, of heaters, air conditioning, accessories, and a host of other special options for convenience, safety, comfort, and appearance. On a single four-door sedan, there are 7 million possible combinations that may be asked for by any one owner. The makers could be called upon to build for years without ever turning out exactly the same car twice. The owner's choice for this chassis, among many other options, is for a red body. The first show of color is in the wheels, while the body of the right shade must be on its way already from the body plant a quarter of a mile off. The many parts, accessories, and special equipment must meet at their rendezvous. The call is for individual choices, for custom service on a mass production basis. And the response must be a fine accomplishment of meeting individual needs and personal tastes in terms of millions of individuals. Modern assembly is timing and teamwork as well as organization. And every year, to make way for changed models, everything may have to be retimed, reteamed, and reorganized with new tools, new assembly line fixtures, and new working procedures. And just as all the parts that must fit together must be there at the right time from thousands of plants all over the country, so from all over the country and all over the world come the people who put them together for other people in thousands of different places. Giant teams of working people all fitting together. Tens of thousands of people, all different. Different in ability, in degree of interest, in each day's varying enthusiasm for the job. Differing in understanding and in their pride of workmanship. Different in age, in skill, in length of experience, and in the way you feel from day to day. Presenting human problems which are challenges to quality control. The best of us may occasionally make a mistake. The best of tools may call for adjustment. So in the all-American game of making things for ourselves and others, there must be catchers as well as pitchers. The inspector's job is to catch any slip and eliminate it from the finished product. The performance you get out of whatever you buy, the long time you can use and enjoy it, the pride you can take in it, depend not only on the engineers who design it and the men who make it, but also on the painstaking, conscientious vigilance of the quality control inspector who checks and double checks all along the way. So the way we Americans do it, quality in the things we buy is designed in, built in, and inspected in from start to finish. And to help them make sure quality is built in and checked in, new devices are continually being developed. This machine automatically checks dimensions to a 10,000th of an inch. A part deliberately made too small is put into the machine as a test of its efficiency. Out it goes. When products were simpler years ago, inspectors were few and far between. But in these days, with more complicated things to put together, inspectors are many, and inspectors are important. And even after a product has passed all the factory tests, it still must meet the approval of the conscientious dealer who sells it. For in his turn, the reliable dealer places his own pledge of quality on everything he sells. He knows that the user finally depends on the dealer's own fidelity. The man who sells any final product shares with its maker the credit and shares with its maker the responsibility for its performance and for the owner's satisfaction. In the quality relay, the dealer is the final qualifier. No other people anywhere have achieved more for themselves and for the rest of us than the thousands upon thousands of hard-working American men and women. The millions who pool their skills and talents to produce the things we need and want. And we who enjoy whatever they have made for us do well to be thinking of what they are giving us. Oh yes, we know they work for their pay, for their food, and for the needs of their wives and the wants of their young ones. But also, they make for the joy of making things right, whatever the whims of our choice and the twists of our tastes. So, as we ease into our necessities, as we nestle into our comforts, as we relish our conveniences, it is well for us to remember that all these have come from the roots of the maker's mind, or the fruits of the maker's labors. That is the job that is being done for all of us by the American maker, producing by the millions, for the millions, to make life in America more enjoyable for us all. The grand job of the American maker.
Alexander, if someone asked you what you were getting out of this science course, what would you tell him?
Enough credits to graduate.
I thought as much. What would you say, Dixon?
I think an appreciation of the impact of science on society.
Yes. Out of the laboratory have come most of the things that make for better living. Radium and the radio, the electric light, the automobile, the airplane. Well, all the wonderful things.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Sure, I admit we're living in a wonderful age.
Well, I'm sure. The age thanks you.
But it does have its disadvantages, you know.
Yes?
Well, I mean to say radium and radio and things like that, they're all invented now. Nothing much we can do about them. Oh, we hear a lot about individual initiative, but what chance do we have who are just starting out? What is there left to invent?
My poor benighted friend. You know, it seems to me that there was once another Alexander who wept because there were no more worlds to conquer. And that's been the cry of youth ever since. But the true student of science accepts every new discovery as an unfinished rainbow, glorious as they are. Each new problem solved brings along new problems. And every new problem is a new opportunity. Now take this metal that we've just been studying. We know today that it's the most common metal in the world. But less than 100 years ago, it was so expensive to produce that only royalty could afford it. Now, we smile at this today. But as late as 1850 in France, Louis Napoleon III, that was, nephew of the great Napoleon, created a sensation in his court when he introduced at state banquets table service of this new metal.
Your Majesty, the Countess asks, what is this strange dinner set?
Do you like it?
Oh, but yes, it is lovely and so unusual.
It is a strange new metal called aluminium by Professor Sinclair de Ville of the École Normale.
Do all the tables have the same?
No, only this one. After all, even an emperor must remember the exchequer. Well, the others have to content themselves with ordinary gold and silver.
It is light as a feather.
Yes, and those that suggest anything to you, my dear Count.
Why, what do you mean, sire?
Think it over. I've summoned this Professor Sinclair de Ville for an audience later, and I want you to be there, because I have a scheme. I am much intrigued with this new metal you have discovered, monsieur.
Pardon, sire. Not I, but the Danish Hans Christian Ørsted, and later Friedrich Weyler, discovered it some 30 years ago. Albert found a new way to isolate the aluminium.
How much does it cost?
About 3,000 francs per kilogram.
I thought you said this metal could be found most anywhere in great abundance.
In a rough state, yes. Every clay bank is an aluminium mine.
Then why?
It is so expensive to separate from its compounds. That is why it remains a precious metal.
Could you find a cheaper way?
I like to try, sire. But you know the pay of a professor?
This is a service for the estate. I'm prepared to place at your disposal whatever funds you may require. Only find a cheaper way.
Yes, sire. I'm honored with the commission. Your Majesty, Count Walewski.
Interesting, but I still don't see...
Ordnance, my dear Walewski. Helmets, breastplates, cartridges. Think what my uncle, the first Napoleon, could have accomplished in the Russian campaign with a mobile army of lightweight equipment.
And now we are meeting Russia again in the Crimea.
Exactly. I'll show my friend Nicolas whether I am parade grand general.
With Louis Napoleon footing the bill, St. Clair de Ville experimented to his heart's content.
Did he get the price down?
And equip the army?
Yes and no. For 6 years, he worked like a Trojan, and he finally got the cost down from $545 a pound to $12 a pound. But that was still too expensive for Napoleon's army, or any army. And it began to look as though the cost was always going to stay right there at $12 a pound, another unfinished rainbow. Then one day, some 50 years ago, in a college chemistry class, something like this, a professor at Oberlin was saying,
There are so many things in this world just waiting to be done, like harnessing the sun or trying to find out what makes the grass grow green.
That's bunkum. Everything's been done.
Consider, for instance, this metal aluminum, the most common metal in the world. Stick a shovel in a clay bank and you have aluminum in compound, yet it costs more than it's worth to get it out. There, gentlemen, is one of the big needs of the world just crying to be filled. What are you going to do about it? Why, if one of you in this class could find a cheap way to produce aluminum, you would become a benefactor of humanity and make yourself a fortune besides.
You know, I've been thinking about that for a long time, and I'm going after that metal.
that was young Charles Martin Hall, and go after it he did. For the rest of his college days, he practically lived in a laboratory. But graduation day finally rolled around, like it has a way of doing, and young Hall went out with a class of 85, his big dream unrealized. But he kept right on. He rigged up a laboratory in his father's woodshed, gasoline stove and homemade batteries, using fruit jars and jelly tumblers, most any sort of container he could find around the house. His sister Julia was his chief assistant.
Get anything?
Not yet.
Well, here's every last one I could find. Except Mother's cookie jar.
We may have to use that, too. How about breaking up any lumps in the aluminum oxide, will you, Julia, while I make a final check on these connections?
What's it supposed to do?
I dissolve the aluminum oxide in the melted cryolite and pass an electric current through it. If I get current enough, it should separate the aluminum from the oxide.
Think you've got enough current now?
Don't know yet. We'll soon see. Well, cross your fingers, Julia.
Don't you see anything?
No aluminum.
Sure. Well, what do we do now?
We still need more current. I'll wager silica's coming out of this clay crucible. How am I going to get rid of that? I know. I'll use a carbon crucible instead. And while I'm doing that...
I know. Get the cookie jar.
Right.
Aye, aye, sir.
And then one memorable day, 8 months after his graduation, February 23rd, 1886,
Julia, look.
Charles, that is...
Yes. At last I've got it. Aluminum.
yes, the 22-year-old boy had found in a woodshed, but world-famous chemists had sought vainly for years. Now one would think he was surely on his way. And And he was, on his way from city to city, trying to find somebody interested in his new discovery. After 2 long years, his search ended in a small Pittsburgh office. 6 men were gathered about a table.
I think that sums it up. I believe there's a great future in aluminum with this Hall process.
How much do you figure it'd cost us to start?
I think we could do it with $20,000.
$20,000?
We couldn't raise that much.
Maybe half that.
Oh, gentlemen, this is no time for halfway measures. George Clapp and I believe in it enough to mortgage everything we have. So if you feel the same way, come in with us. If not...
Captain Hunt, you can count on me.
I'm with you.
And I.
And so was formed the Pittsburgh Reduction Company, later to become Aluminum Company of America. Here, Charles Hall and another young fellow named Arthur V. Davis, fresh out of Amherst, went to work in earnest. And then on the night of November 29th, 1888...
That's Sam all ready?
Right here.
Well, there she is, our first ingot.
Charles, that's the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Arthur, I agree with you.
Just think, aluminum's bringing $8 a pound. Look how much cheaper we can sell it than that.
I can hardly believe it. At last.
You're worn out, Charles. I'm kind of tired myself. Let's call it a day for tonight.
All right. I'll put this in the safe.
Say, Arthur, do you know what day this is?
It's Thursday. For 10 minutes yet. It's almost midnight.
I just remembered. It's Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving? Good grief. I was invited out for dinner. Oh, well. It's too late to telephone now. Besides, the only telephone around here is the one in the foundry across the street that's been closed all day.
That's too bad.
Anyway, we can be thankful. Tomorrow we can tell Captain Hunt he can start a salesman out selling aluminum.
That's right. And we'll be ready.
Yes, sir, and just watch the orders come rolling in.
No, I guess not.
Suppose we make you a special price of $2 a pound on half-ton lots.
Half-ton? Great guns, who could ever use a half-ton of aluminum? No, thanks. We've got troubles enough now with the metals we're already using. No use of inviting new ones.
Yes, but aluminum will roll, cast, draw, or alloy better than any of your other metals. It's bound to be easier to work with.
Yes, maybe so. But let somebody else do the experimenting.
Well, thanks for your time, anyway. No use doing that.
What?
No use hiding in the safe. Nobody's going to steal it. You can't even give it away.
Any luck?
Oh, a few inquiries about sample lots, not much more than that.
What are we going to do? Got 1,000 pounds on hand and turning out more at the rate of 50 pounds a day.
Somebody's got to use it.
But if they won't even try it...
Then we'll have to try it out for them.
How do you mean?
What do you think aluminum's good for?
Lots of things. Takes the place of iron pots, pans, kettles.
That's an idea. Who makes kitchen utensils around these parts?
Oh, there's a firm in here. He makes cast iron ones.
Let's go up and see them.
Huh?
Borrow a pattern or two from them, and we'll cast up something. When they see how much better it is, why, they'll fall over themselves to buy our aluminum.
Mr. Davis was here before the office opened this morning, Mr. Griswold.
Oh, what, Mr. Davis?
From Pittsburgh. He's been here before.
Oh, yes, the aluminum chap. I loaned him one of our molders. I'll send him in, Miss Moses.
He isn't here right now. He went across for some breakfast, but he left these on the desk. Said he'd be back.
Well, I'll be jiggered. He did make them. Aluminum tea kettles.
Aren't they wonderful?
You think so?
I think they're the most marvelous kettles I've ever seen. I'd like to have one.
It's yours.
Oh, here's Mr. Davis now.
Good morning, Mr. Griswold.
How are you?
I'm afraid I got here a little early.
So I see. Early enough to put one over on me. Sit down. God, I like these.
Glad to hear it.
Did you really mean I could have this?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Just wait until I show this around.
Well, if all women take to them like that.
They will. Aluminum's a friendly metal. You'll do a land office business with those.
Yes, well, anyway, I guess I'll take a chance on them.
Good.
Put me down for 2,000 kettles.
Wait a minute. We just sell aluminum. We don't make kettles.
You made these, didn't you?
That was just to sell you the idea. You lend us the molder, you know. We don't even have that kind of a factory.
Then get one. I'm not going to turn my plant upside down. I'll sell the utensils, but you've got to take the grief of making them.
But, Mr. Griswold...
That's my proposition. Take it or leave it.
We'll take it. We've got to. Seems as how.
Seems as how.
So that's what we're up against. What else could I do?
You did just right. You mean we're actually going to make the kettles?
Kettles and pots and pans and spiders and anything else we can think of.
We still haven't got a foundry.
We will have.
Where'll we find the money?
We'll get it. We'll borrow it or sell stock. Maybe we can find a banker with vision enough to advance it. But the point is, if that's the only way we can sell aluminum, we'll find uses for it. And by George, we'll use it.
Davis is here.
Hello, Mr. Griswold. I came as soon as I got your word. Don't tell me that you're all out of kettles again.
More than that. Listen, Davis, you fellows don't want to monkey with the manufacturing end. Suppose I just buy the raw material from you and make my own aluminum ware.
Must be my ears. Honestly, sounds just like you said you wanted to make your own aluminum ware.
I know that's what you tried to sell me in the beginning, but I wanted to make sure that all the bugs were out of it. And I'd rather you'd be the exterminator than me.
I see.
All right. How much is it going to cost me now?
Not 1 cent more than in the first place. The only thing is, we've got a new plant now, going full blast, trying to keep up with the orders. It's too late for us to quit now. What we will do, we'll be glad to sell you the aluminum in ingots. We'll even help you get started any way we can. After all, there's enough business for all of us.
Fair enough. That suits me.
Of course, the pot and pan business didn't happen all in a minute. All along, there were many other incidents. Incidents which showed it was as hard for aluminum to make itself a market as it was for Hall to produce the metal in the first place. Like the time another aluminum salesman went to California with an idea.
Aluminum wire? No.
All right, sir, let's forget it. By the way, did I show you these?
What are they?
Pound of copper and a pound of aluminum. Here are two wires that carry the same current. This one made out of a pound of copper. This one out of a pound of aluminum. You see, aluminum wire goes twice as far.
Thought we weren't going to say anything more about it.
It's my last word.
And here's mine, Mr. Colby. We're building a new power line from Blue Lakes to Stockton. 46 miles, 3-phase line. That means 138 miles of wire. #1 gauge. When can we have it?
Why, as soon as possible. I'll have to let you know.
All right.
But here's a bona fide order for 138 miles of wire. We have the metal, but no wire mill. That's why we come to you. All we want to do is to supply the aluminum and hire you to make the wire.
Not interested.
But you made the sample for us.
Just the same, I'm not making the wire. Why should we make wire for you to sell in competition to us?
You sold it. Now you make it.
Well, I guess there's only one answer to that. We'll have to make it.
And so it happened. When no one else would make their wire, there was nothing left but to buy their own wire mill and make it themselves. Later, they stranded aluminum wire around a steel wire core to increase the strength of the conductor. And there's something that often happens. Aluminum teams up with another metal to use the best qualities of each and expand the use of both. Today, more than 1 million miles of aluminum cable span America. Its lightness permits longer stretches between towers and saves hundreds of thousands of dollars in costly erection.
But, Professor.
Yes?
That's all very well for aluminum, but what about copper? Aluminum seems to have squeezed copper right out of the wire business.
Not a bit of it. Cheap aluminum power lines made possible the electrification of rural America. Think of all the additional homes and farms that had to be wired. More copper house wiring than ever, and more electrical fixtures and equipment. Everybody gets a break. It's true that the history of aluminum is the story of substitution, but that substitution always means more use for the other metals as well.
I see. Finishing more rainbows.
Right. Then one day, an aluminum representative called on a manufacturer of office furniture.
You're barking up the wrong tree this time, Stevens.
But think how much lighter aluminum would be. You can weld it. No joints to work loose.
Maybe so, but we're not going to do the experimenting. I happen to know no other furniture company will either.
Well, there's one company that'll do it, if it has to.
Who's that?
The aluminum company.
But you've never made any furniture. It's more than bending a little hollow tubing. Why, you have to be a specialist in upholstery, in leather, and hair, and paint. Be careful you don't bite off more than you can chew.
That's why I wish you were doing it. You already know how. But if you won't, I guess we'll just have to go ahead and bite.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think of the aluminum furniture business by this time?
Oh, we're doing all right.
I'll say you are. I hear you're selling $1 million worth a year or more.
More.
Ouch. Now listen, Stevens. I sent for you to find out if you'd still sell us aluminum and let us in on it, too.
Sure, why not? Our main object in life is to make and sell aluminum, not furniture.
And that's how aluminum furniture got started.
Looks like the aluminum people won out every time.
Oh, no, not by a jugful. More than once, they work on a plan for years, only to have it take a nosedive. They just learn to take the bitter with the sweet and keep on plugging. For instance, look what happened in transportation.
Nice-looking cars. Too bad they're not aluminum.
Yeah, too bad for you.
Too bad for us both.
You know how much it would cost us to build a train of aluminum?
Yes. Do you know how much you'd save by it? You'd reduce the dead weight by at least 25% right off the bat. That means less power for operation. One engine instead of two on some runs. Always more payload for the same power. Faster starts, quicker stops, greater safety. Less maintenance of cars and less wear and tear on rails and roadbed.
You don't say.
You'd save the extra cost in power and maintenance of way alone in a few years.
Yeah, but where would we get an 80-foot channel for the center sill? There's no aluminum channel that size made, you know that. No mill to make them. Can you supply them?
I'll see you later. All right, but what about the 80-foot channels?
They'll take a whole new mill.
That'll run into millions.
And you haven't any assurance we'd get a single order, even if we did build a mill.
We have the assurance that we'll never get an order if we don't.
After the licking we took in automobile bodies, now you want to build railroad cars?
What do you think, Jack?
It's true we lost out on automobile bodies, just at a time when they were a mainstay of our business. Drawn steel bodies came along and were much cheaper. But don't forget, that's true in pleasure cars, where low first cost is a big thing. In the commercial field, like buses and trucks, where they are operated to make money, where payload and service count, we're in stronger than ever.
Yeah.
The railroad field is our next logical move. We've studied it from every angle, and we're sure. Of course it'll cost plenty. That's true of every forward step in this business. I say let's go to the management and fight for it.
And so, without an order for a single foot, without even a market, they went ahead and built the mill anyway to roll those large aluminum beams. Only a company with the vision would dare to do a thing like that. Only a company of willing and able resources could do it. Before the mill was finished, even before they'd sold a single beam, they had the grit to start running this full-page ad in national magazines.
One of these days you will ride on an aluminum train.
Talk about the courage of your convictions.
You really mean that?
We do. Here are the specifications on our new aluminum channels. As strong as steel and half the weight.
There's one other ingredient here you haven't mentioned.
Well, what's that?
Nerve.
Yes, we carry that in stock, too.
Yes, they're an adventurous lot, these men of aluminum, ready to tackle anything. From a wire 1/25th the thickness of a human hair, so fine that you couldn't see it without that microscope, to a steam shovel dipper. Big enough to scoop up 32 cubic yards at one bite. That's more than enough to fill 6 5-ton trucks and deposit it on top of a 6-story building half a block down the street. And the beauty of it is, every last worker of the hundreds of thousands now engaged in the far-flung aluminum industry is holding down a job that never even existed 50 years ago and wouldn't exist today were it not for aluminum. And think of all the things you wouldn't have were it not for aluminum. So, because one young man met the challenge in his day, your life and the lives of these men are all bound together with invisible but inextricable ties. Ties of aluminum.
It's fascinating.
I could go on indefinitely. But I'll take time for only one more story. By way of contrast, a simple little story of Tony Compula, one of the men in the mill.
No, none of these is it.
But why do they have to look like a piece of old lead?
Because the architect wants them to look as much as possible like the beautiful old lead spandrels he admired so much in Italy.
Oh.
I don't know what else to say, Tony. I've tried everything and, well, just haven't hit it.
We'll get him yet, boss.
I hope so, but time's awful short.
We'll get him tomorrow, I'll bet you.
I hope you're right. Well, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Shorty, what's that?
What?
These.
Oh, that's a prison tray. You know, when you're in the hoosgow, you have to wash the dishes.
Shorty, that's it.
What's it?
Don't you see the finish? Just what we want. Huh? Come on. You said it got this way by washing it with dishes, eh?
That's right. Every day they wash them. For weeks and months and years.
I know, but we cannot wait that long. Let's see. They wash them in soap and water, don't they?
That's right. They use a cheap soap and a lot of strong washing soda.
Ah, here. Cut it up and make soap suds while I'll get the washing soda.
You got the dishes, boss?
No, take it too long. Here. Ballberries. Work quicker. We shake him good. The way dishes get pushed around in a pan.
You mean you got to do all this tonight? That's a lot of shaking, boss.
No, not you, Shorty. The shaking box. We just fixed up. Here we go.
Hello?
This is Tony. Tony Capula, the plant. Come on down here. I got something.
And believe it or not, Tony had something. The next morning, the sample was flown to New York, where any day now you can see 19,000 of them between the windows all up the whole 70 stories of Rockefeller Center. Aluminum spandrels of old Italian lead finish, because one Tony Campula stayed with it till he got it, finishing his bit of the rainbow back in Cleveland, Ohio. Contrast, if you will, the humble woodshed where the boy Hall worked out the beginnings of modern aluminum with this great research laboratory where a group of trained scientists with the finest equipment obtainable continue the never-ending task of expanding the benefits of aluminum and bringing down its cost. Till today, it's less than 20 cents a pound. Take this group, for instance. In the past 20 years, these metallurgists have perfected, among other things, alloys that make aluminum strong. They're rolling such an alloy out in the mills right now. These men of aluminum, they're not merely rolling sheet aluminum, they're turning out vital material for national defense. Long before the government in Washington called on industry to rally to national defense, aluminum had already anticipated the call by directing its energies toward the production of defense materials. Aluminum for the Air Force, wings for the eyes of the Army and Navy. And in addition, had voluntarily invested millions of dollars to more than double its capacity. Aluminum is determined to be prepared for any national emergency, whether in peacetime or wartime. Yes, young Charles Martin Hall started something in that woodshed some 50 years ago. And because he fell in with the right people in the early days of his invention, he did become a benefactor of humanity, and he did make a fortune, which he left to colleges and missionary societies. Nature made aluminum light. He and the men who followed him made it plentiful, strong, and cheap. No one man, no one group, but the everlasting teamwork of every bloomin' soul from office to lab and from mine to mill. Like the breathtaking Navy and Marine Memorial, the story of aluminum gives wings to our imagination, lift to our courage, and ever-shining example to our youth of today. That's what one youth did, while others were bemoaning there was nothing left to do. And that same challenge still stands today. There are so many things in the world just waiting to be done.
What are you going to do about it?
In San Francisco, Story City of the West, begins the story of California canned foods in abundance. Here 100 years ago, in a town of wood and bricks and canvas, the fruit of California orchards was first sealed in cans, packed for the gold rush pioneers. Yes, there was gold in the fabled hills of California then, but today, the fertile valleys of California yield a golden harvest of vastly greater value. Through the modern city by the Golden Gate goes the rich product of these valleys, much of it in cans or glass containers to the markets of the world. This all-American schoolgirl may live in San Francisco, or perhaps right in your town. You home from the classroom, she marches for the kitchen. She's hungry. Now, Mother is perfectly wise to this, and she is also wisely prepared. Out of the refrigerator comes a tall can of tasty, chilled tomato juice, exactly the right sort of thing for an after-school energy booster. Now, this is California tomato juice. The tomatoes were grown and ripened in a sunshiny California field. They were turned into tomato juice, sealed in cans, and wrapped in a label in a California cannery. Why does this family take for granted the quality of canned foods? Every day, millions of families open millions of cans of food without the shadow of a doubt about the healthfulness and purity of their contents. Note that after this can is opened, the tomato juice that remains may be stored in perfect safety in the original container. Properly refrigerated, it will stay wholesome and delicious. How has the abundant flow of California canned fruits and vegetables earned such confidence as this? Certainly a part of the answer is the Canners League of California. Here is the board of directors representing 39 California canning concerns. Their job is to develop and to share the best methods of creating the finest food supply ever known and to make it abundantly yours. California orchards in the brilliant blossom season remind us that the quality of canned fruits and vegetables depends first of all on the quality of fresh produce brought to the canneries. This means scientific control from the cultivation of the soil to the harvesting of the crop. Canners are a part of the agricultural industry. They share with the farmer the hazards of farming. That's why canning companies employ crop production specialists known as fieldmen. On the job with the grower, they provide research information on the selection and planting of seeds or trees, the use of fertilizers, methods of cultivation, the pruning of orchard trees, anything bearing on the production of top quality crops. This is the annual Canners League School for Field Men on the campus of the College of Agriculture of the University of California at Davis. Lectures and demonstrations keep canner representatives up to date on agricultural research. The use of insecticides and fungicides to protect soil, plants, trees, and maturing crops is one of the highly important factors in agriculture. Powerful high-speed machinery is used to ensure the complete protective coverage of this orchard, forcing the spray inside the limbs and under the leaves from top to bottom. The control of various pests and blights is a critical part of farm operation today that means better quality raw materials for California canneries. In this era of scientific agriculture, even the airplane has become a standard farm implement, adapted both to planting and protecting certain types of field and orchard crops. Spurting a spray compound, a specially equipped helicopter can spread its protective cover better and faster than ground-level equipment. Dive dusting a pear orchard can be an exciting job. It's an exacting job, too, one that must be done carefully and precisely. The proper treatment of these trees may save hundreds of tons of fruit for the harvest. These rapid methods of handling crop control help to make possible the abundance of high-quality canned fruits and vegetables. Many hands, as well as modern machinery, must be used in the total food canning process. The job of this peach picker is much more than filling buckets as fast as possible. Of first importance is the selection of the fruit. Peaches of the right size and maturity must be chosen. Not every peach is ready for harvest on the same day. A canvas guard on picking buckets helps to deposit the peaches carefully in cannery lug boxes. Delicate fruit must be kept in perfect natural condition. Before being taken to a cannery, the freshly picked peaches are hauled to an inspection station where expert graders will check representative samples taken from this lot of fruit. Random boxes are selected for critical examination. Rigid inspection is applied at every step from the very beginning through the complete canning routine. The shipment is clearly marked with the grading certificate indicating the condition of the fruit in these boxes. Now these peaches have been promptly delivered to a nearby cannery. Here, the first of many mechanical devices to be used in their handling quickly unloads the fruit. From the moment that fresh produce arrives from field or orchard, specialized machines perform most of the processing tasks. From the orchard lug boxes, the peaches tumble safely into tanks of water. This prevents mechanical damage and gives the fruit its first washing. Elevators automatically raise the peaches from the tanks and start them on their way inside the cannery. The remarkable freshness of properly canned fruits depends on moving them rapidly through the complete cannery process. Pouring over the top of the elevator, the fruit rolls immediately into this grading device, which separates the peaches into several standard sizes for the canning runs ahead. Emerging from the grader, the divided flow now moves ahead automatically, the peaches riding on traveling belts, each carrying a stream of like-sized fruit en route to the cutting and pitting machines. Several types of high-speed peach pitting machinery are used in California canneries. Operators are feeding peaches here into a torque pitter. The fruit is cleanly cut and separated and the pit released by twisting the halves in opposite directions. It's amazing how such powerful, high-speed food processing machinery is engineered to handle material so fragile. This machine saws peaches in half. Then, while the two pieces are held in place by a pair of cups, a knife cuts out the pit. These workers are supplying fruit to a third type of apparatus used for this precision job, the wire pitting machine, which divides the peaches and carries the pits away with one quick slash of a stainless steel wire. Immediately after they are cut and pitted, the peach halves are on their way to the next process. In the history of California canned fruits, peaches were the first to be packed and through a century they continue by far the largest commodity run. Some 30 million cases of peaches have been canned annually in California, well over 90% of the entire peach pack of the United States. This total is the equivalent of nearly 620 million of the popular number 2.5 size cans familiar to every family. Before they can be further prepared for putting into cans, the divided peaches, as they have come from the cutting machines, must be separated from the loose pits among them. This is accomplished quickly by the pit shaker through which the fruit has now passed. For the next process, every peach half must be right side up. This means sunny side up, the cups down. The cut fruit is now traveling toward a device which accomplishes this job better and faster than any hand operation. This step is required in order to expose only the skin surface of the peach halves while they pass through a machine within which they are peeled chemically and then thoroughly washed to remove every trace of the chemical used. This method preserves the maximum of food value. The smooth, gleaming peach halves are carefully checked for any imperfections as they move along to the final sorting tables. Now a corps of skilled workers carefully reviews the golden flow of prepared fruit. Peaches that show imperfections are removed from the line. Only canning quality material will be permitted to go into containers. Automatic conveyors deliver a steady supply of bright, clean cans ready to be filled to this big revolving table where prepared peach halves or slices, cut, pitted, and peeled, checked and rechecked for size, condition, and quality, are ready to be canned. Through openings in the edge of the wheel, the peach halves or slices are poured into the containers while they travel on a circular track synchronized with the turntable above them. There's never a lost moment or motion in this continuous rhythmical process, special delivery and special handling all the way. In the instant they are filled with peaches, the cans are on their way to the syruping machines, which will immerse the fruit in syrup to effectively enhance its delicate flavor and texture. As quickly as they are filled, lids are placed on the cans and crimped in place in a matter of split seconds by machines which guarantee an absolutely positive seal. Now the sealed cans roll on their rapid way into a giant cooker. They will move through this continuous process steam cooker exactly the right length of time at precisely the right temperature and pressure to ensure their proper cooking and the perfect preservation of their contents. The inside job is now complete, but the outside of each can must properly identify its contents. For this purpose, the cans are headed toward the labeling machine. Labels are important since they carry a message for the consumers. Canners League members have been leaders in recommending that labels display a full description of the products they cover. To affix labels, glue is applied to the surface of the container, then the can rolls over and picks up the paper label. Glue is next applied to the flap of the label, which is sealed down as the can revolves. With the canning process complete, these California peaches are now prepared for distribution. For their rapid handling and proper protection, cans now become cases, packed by machinery in shipping cartons of light but strong fiber construction. The commercial canning process has now converted a highly perishable crop into non-perishable form, creating a vast supply of wholesome, nutritious food which can be safely stored and transported and will be available to consumers in every season of the year. As these cases of California canned peaches roll off the production line, this handler is stacking them on a low, portable wooden platform called a pallet. A man can easily handle a single case of canned fruit, but a powerful lift truck can stick out its steel arms, raise a full pallet load of cases, and move them with equal ease. This California fruit, which only a few hours ago hung in a shimmering orchard, is now headed for a boxcar bound for some distant place to be consumed now or at some future time. Apricots, another of the golden fruits of California, are ready for the canning run at another of the big, highly mechanized California canneries. At the cutting table, the apricots are placed individually on a revolving wheel which carries them against a keen cutting blade. This slices the fruit in halves and the loose pits drop out. Off the cutting wheel, the apricot halves are collected on traveling belts and routed to the sorting and grading tables. The best of the apricot crop is consigned to California canneries, and here the fruit is subjected to rigid standards of selection. Every piece that fails to measure up is removed from the line. To ensure uniformity in every container, the apricots are automatically sorted in these size grading shakers. And at the same rapid tempo, the apricots move unceasingly from process to process. No timeouts in the modern canning pattern. Packed with fruit and filled with syrup, the cans wind their way through a preheating device, the result of which is to drive excess oxygen from the cans in preparation for sealing. From this process, they will travel through the sealing machine and then into the continuous steam pressure cooker. At this plant, the cans of apricots come out of the cooker at a high level. Now it is necessary to return them to the ground level for storage by way of this spiral gravity track down which the cans are gently spinning. The tender, freshly cooked fruit is kept in perfect condition, and this type of handling avoids bumps or dents. At the bottom of the spiral, the cans are returned to an upright position and will come to a stop on a straight section of track. Using extra mechanical hands, an operator takes the cans from the line 14 at a time and stacks them on a pallet. These particular apricots are taken to the cannery warehouse and stored in the bright, that is, without labels. A part of the pack often goes into storage for later labeling and packing in cases. A steady supply of merchandise is thus at all times available to food wholesalers. Here is a battery of equipment designed especially for handling another favorite California fruit. These devices remove the skins and cores from pears. As the pears enter this machine, notice how the cutters shave the skin from each piece with a smooth flowing motion, the blades following the contour of the fruit. The core is punched out at the same time. These operators are placing pears in position on another type of peeler in general use today. This system is more reminiscent of the way Mother used to do it in the kitchen during her annual home canning bee, her paring knife following round and round the fruit and the skin falling away in a long ribbon. But no handwork compares with the speed or accuracy of these mechanized methods. While much of this orchard crop is canned in the form of pear halves, this particular run is headed for a fruit cocktail and assembly station. They are but one of 5 commodities to be brought together here: pears and peaches, properly diced for this popular pack, pineapple tidbits, whole grapes, and cherry halves. The cubes of peaches and pears, foundation of the fruit cocktail mix, are blended here. The seedless grapes are added to each can through holes at the circumference of this stainless steel merry-go-round. Next, the cans pass under the pineapple wheel for just the right amount of this tropical fruit import. And finally, the correct number of cherry halves is added to each can. Fruit cocktail is packed only in California. Now for a glimpse into the vegetable side of the canned food story. This skillful farm worker is cutting green asparagus in the rich soil of the Delta country formed by the great Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers of interior California. Half of the nation's total crop of asparagus is harvested in these Delta islands, sometimes called the Holland of America, because the water in the river channels surrounding them is higher than the level of the land and must be contained by dikes or levees. An exclusive California product, white asparagus, is being harvested now. It is bleached by keeping the growing spears covered with earth, a type of cultivation made possible by the soft, powdery peat soil of the Delta. lug boxes filled with fresh-cut asparagus are cooled and washed with ice water at a field collection station. This harvest of asparagus is given an ice pack to chill the delicate spears and keep them in field-fresh condition while being hauled to a cannery. The abundance in which agricultural products are distributed to the markets of the world as canned goods depends largely on specialized methods and machines developed for the handling of each different kind of crop. Asparagus for canning is rushed to the plant with all possible speed and moved into the processing lines with the least possible lapse of time that would take the edge from flavor and quality. In the processing scenes which follow, both green and white asparagus will be seen in various operations. In actual industry practice, however, the two varieties are handled on entirely separate canning lines. Big cannery crews like this and the hundreds of workers we have seen handling other commodities serve as a reminder of the tremendous labor force which the canning industry employs. At the peak of the season, California canneries employ about 100,000 people. Here is asparagus taken from the boxes and laid straight on a traveling conveyor. One of the first steps in preparing asparagus for canning is to cut the spears to uniform length. To accomplish this, the traveling belt carries them through a high-speed circular saw. Rechecked, they are sent through a second cutter for a precision trim. From the cutting saws, the asparagus is carried into a blancher where the spears are blasted with live steam. Blanching is a rapid preheating which helps to arrest any changes in natural flavor and to prepare the asparagus for proper packing in containers. Emerging from the blancher, the asparagus spears are distributed on this broad belt in order that they may be carefully scanned by these skilled workers. With keen eyes and quick fingers, they appraise the flow and remove every piece that does not conform to quality standards. Extra-sized spears are selected for a special pack. Here is the California specialty in the asparagus industry, white asparagus being placed on the receiving belt from the field boxes and headed toward the cutting, blanching, and sorting processes such as we have already seen. The same exacting standards of grading and selection will be used for this item. Now the white asparagus is ready for final selection and canning. Containers have been brought to the packing tables on automatic runways, fresh and clean from steam washers. They are carefully filled with as many spears as possible. White asparagus constitutes more than half of the total California asparagus pack. Just how good a job has been done at the canning table is a matter of continuous check. The traveling belts bring every can through this inspection station. Here they are tested for full commodity weight and examined for possible broken tips before they are sealed and sent into the cookers. During the critical cooking process, accurate instruments indicate and record time, temperature, and pressure. High quality is also stimulated by this voluntary industry cooperation. All the constant improving methods of crop production and processing, the result of extensive, continuous research, are for the ultimate benefit of the consumer. They buy with confidence because of the high standard of this industry. These supermarket shoppers are selecting baby foods, but scores of varieties of fruits and vegetables are purchased and used with the same priceless public confidence which the members of the Canners League of California strive to create. Up from a California dock go sling loads of California canned fruits and vegetables, more than 100 million cases of food in tin or glass containers, the result of processing over 4 million tons of California farm products are distributed annually by railway, highway, and by the waterways of the world through the famous Golden Gate. These products reach every continent and every community in America to become abundantly yours.
Of the many people who visit your home, a favorite and familiar neighborhood figure is your milkman. The milkman speeds the distribution of our most widely used food to America's doorsteps quietly and efficiently. Neither rain nor snow deters this distribution. The milkman's appointed rounds to the doorsteps of America. How many of us really understand the tremendous job of milk distribution and the careful planning behind the organization that delivers dependably fresh milk? How many of us truly appreciate the great public service of these friends of ours who protect and deliver the milk to us and our children? This guardianship is essential in safeguarding our most vital food. Now, just who is this distributor? He is your milk company who sees to it that the milk from fine, healthy cows such as these reaches you promptly and regularly and under the vital conditions of proper refrigeration and sanitation. The job begins right here in a modern sanitary dairy barn. For example, veterinarians check the health of the cows as the first step in maintaining quality control. The dairy farmers wash each cow on flanks and udder before milking. Clean hands are vital to clean milk. This modern milking machine is a hygienic time and labor-saving device for the farmer. Milking utensils cannot be just rinsed. They must be scrubbed and thoroughly sterilized. Milk distributors and health officials regularly inspect the dairies where there are welcome visitors, for they help the farmer by providing expert advice. When milking's over, the milk must be rushed to the milk house for cooling. This is most important in protecting its fine flavor and quality. Speedy movement of milk from the farm is essential. Milk is a perishable food that requires skillful and constant supervision. The milk is transported to the country receiving station or city plant, where each farmer's milk is separately weighed. The milk is tested for purity, as well as for flavor and quality. Before being returned to the farms, the empty cans are washed and sterilized. Before leaving the receiving plant, the milk is further cooled to safeguard its quality and flavor. Huge sterilized and insulated tank trucks speed the milk to the city. Here again, your milk distributor provides skilled laboratory technicians whose expert watchfulness guarantees the purity and quality of the product. One such test by experts is for butterfat content, which determines the richness of milk. For extra fine flavor and richness, the farmer gets a bonus. Another important test is to ensure its purity. Constant laboratory control at every stage maintains the quality and wholesomeness of your milk supply. From these stainless steel tanks, after testing, the milk flows to the pasteurizer where it is heated. Pasteurization affects neither flavor nor food value. It is simply one more safeguard for the consumer. These electric devices automatically and accurately control pasteurization. Ever wonder why your distributor's homogenized milk tastes so creamy, so rich? Here's why. The homogenizer exerts terrific pressure, which divides the fat globules into tiny particles, then spreads them evenly throughout all of the milk. Homogenized milk is ideal for baby's formula. Now the milk is ready for the bottles. After being washed, scrubbed and sterilized, they're really clean. No wonder they sparkle. See how quickly the milk flows right up to the top of the bottle. This unique and speedy machine helps guarantee fresh, clean, pasteurized milk untouched by human hands. Quick action applies the sanitary cap, sealing in freshness and flavor and protecting the milk. There goes the endless parade on its way to your home. But there's still important work to be done. Every day, each piece of equipment used in processing and bottling milk is taken apart, scrubbed and sterilized. Now the milk is on its way to stores, to hospitals, to restaurants, and to your home. Modern, efficient equipment and skilled people, engineers, technicians, plant workers, deliverymen and office workers who record thousands of daily transactions provide Americans with the best milk in the world. Economical distribution, sanitation, pasteurization, and other safeguards make our system of milk supply a standard for the world.
This is the main entrance to the General Tire and Rubber Company in Akron, Ohio, home of the famous General Nigen tubeless tire and headquarters for a worldwide network of plants. engaged in many, many fields of endeavor: rubber, chemicals, aeronautics, and plastics. This is the story of one of those plants, from which comes an endless flow of flexible plastic fabrics for industry.
Beauty sometimes appears in strange places. The beauty of living color is found in the soot of drab tenements. Undying music has come to life in the most barren of surroundings. Reproductions of masterpieces sometimes transform a bleak wall with the warmth that springs from color and design.
And beauty is also born in factories. Here in these buildings in Toledo, Ohio, spreading over 30 acres with over 500,000 square feet of floor space, are the textile leather production facilities devoted to the manufacture of supported and unsupported flexible plastic materials. For this is textile leather, giving employment to more than 900 Toledoans. And this employment record is one of the most unusual in American industry, with 50 weeks of work each year for every employee during the past 15 years. This is textile leather, which a half-century ago pioneered in the development of peroxylin-coated and especially processed fabrics. And with that basis of experience has gained leadership in the production of vinyl fabrics, supported and unsupported, in almost endless variety for a multitude of uses. Literally hundreds of different constructions and qualities are made here as a result of textile leather's broad experience. Experience contributed by 8 top executives who have been with the corporation for a total of 273 years, or an average of more than a quarter of a century apiece. It is only through many years of specializing in the manufacture of coated fabrics that such a diversified line can be established, with hundreds of printing and embossing patterns, thousands of color formulas, and infinite variety of multicolor combinations. This is Textile Leather's modern product development laboratory. Here, small batches of peroxylin or vinyl compounds are mixed and tested to meet specific customer requirements. For example, this hand-mixed test batch of peroxylin will be applied to a fabric by the spreader method on this special laboratory equipment. The spreader process is used in the manufacture of peroxylin as well as certain types of vinyl fabrics. In another corner of the product development lab, a test compound of vinyl resin is mixed in a miniature Banbury mill. It then goes into the lab's warm-up mill and is preheated before going to the lab's calendering machine, where the vinyl sheet and fabric backing are fused together under heat and pressure. Textile leather coatings are applied by these 2 methods just seen in miniature, the spreader process or the calendering process. And every regular production run is preceded by a laboratory test run made to assure that the compound is exactly right for the end-use requirement. Each sample is tested for the qualities laid down in the customer's specifications. This machine that you see is testing the resistance of textile leather vinyl materials to surface wear, an important requirement in footwear and luggage. Others must withstand strong light without fading for such things as outdoor furniture and upholstery in convertible cars. High tensile strength is always an important requirement, because all end products require the strength and durability to give long-lasting customer satisfaction. Others must withstand extremely low temperatures to meet civilian and military requirements for land, air, and water equipment. Tests may run as low as -80 degrees Fahrenheit. And some materials must withstand repeated flexing and folding, extremely vital for such uses as folding doors, upholstery, and bookbinding. This is a peroxylin compound being mixed. With a proper formula established for specific and end-use performance, ingredients are blended in these huge vats as the first production step toward application by the spreader process. After thorough mixing, the peroxylin compound is drawn into a can, to which is added exactly the right amount of the specified pigment. The formula is accurately weighed and then thoroughly stirred to assure perfect uniformity of color throughout the entire batch. At the same time, the Toledo Dye Works, a part of the textile leather operation, is preparing the fabric support to which the coating will be applied. It may be interesting to know that this section of Textile Leather's plant, adjacent to the coating factory, is the largest cotton fabric finishing plant under one roof west of the Alleghenies. Here is performed the napping, shearing, bleaching, mercerizing, and dyeing of all types of fabrics for use as the supporting media for Textile Leather's materials. And now the compound and fabric meet for the first journey through the spreader machine. Peroxylin, and in certain cases vinyl, are applied in this manner, with a doctor knife uniformly spreading the jelly-like solution. Peroxylin textile leather is used as covers for books, hard cases and hand luggage, and many other applications. Vinyl is also applied by the spreader method to meet certain physical and visual requirements. When the first coat has been spread and dried, another coat is applied, and again the material passes through the oven. Successive coats are built up much as lacquer is applied to a fine piece of furniture to produce layers of high-quality flexible films firmly bonded to each other and to the fabric backing. After spreader coating, the material is now ready for embossing. Here the rollers press one of several hundred patterns into the surface. This type of roller embossing is used on textile leather's peroxylin and vinyl materials. Antique finishes are available too. This is called spanishing, accomplished by running a second color over the material and then wiping it from the high areas, but allowing the color to remain in the depressed portions of the embossed pattern, accenting the third-dimensional effect. On other runs, multiple colors and patterns may be applied by a printing machine, and scores of these print pattern rollers are maintained for immediate use. Those are the highlights of textile leather's spreader process, a field in which they have been a recognized leader for nearly half a century. With that background, it is only natural that textile leather should have been among the first, just before World War II, to start calendaring vinyl resin coatings. Vinyls have largely replaced peroxylin for upholstery and other applications, requiring maximum resistance to flexing, folding, and scuffing. One of the most outstanding results of this continued research program is the famous Nigen-Tolex, featuring textile leather's exclusive resin-bonded fibrous backing. Nigen-Tolex is tougher, as much as 3 times the stitch strength of other supported vinyls, and yet it works so beautifully because of its balanced stretch in all directions. Calendared vinyls, such as Nigen-Tolex, Tolex, Mustang, and all vinyl Tolon, are produced quite differently from spreader-type leather cloths. After the resin has been mixed with the plasticizer, stabilizer, and desired color in the Banbury machine, it goes into the warm-up mill. Here the compound is thoroughly mixed and heated. Then the dough-like mass is fed into the calendar rolls, which are heated to a temperature of 350 degrees. Fabric backing dyed to match the color of the vinyl coating is drawn into the calendar, where the heated rolls firmly bond the single film of dense, tough vinyl to the sturdy cloth backing under heat and pressure. In cutaway animation, this is what happens to create the fabric-backed vinyl materials known as Nigen-Tolex and Tolex, unsurpassed in their ability to withstand flexing, folding, and abrasion, as well as many other destructive forces. With this inseparable bond between vinyl and fabric, the two become one single sheet of rugged, long-lived material. There's a high degree of precision in this process, too, with a continuous gauging of weight and uniformity as the vinyl and fabric pass through the calendar. And in many cases, before leaving this machine, Tolex is embossed with one of the hundreds of patterns available to textile leather customers. Tolon, the all-vinyl film, which requires no fabric backing, is also made on this same type of machine. Tolon, Tolex, and Nijin Tolex are widely used for furniture upholstery and for many other purposes. And Mustang, too, is produced on calendars. Mustang, the versatile, highly durable vinyl for the luggage and shoe industries. The vinyl that so closely simulates the appearance and physical characteristics of natural hides. Textile leather's reputation through the years has rested on its high standards of quality. Nothing is left to chance. So during production runs of both peroxylin and vinyls, generous samples are checked against previously established specifications. These tests are the same as we saw in the product development lab, to learn whether the rigid specifications have been met, to guarantee that the material will perform properly on the end product. And when these qualities have been assured, the material goes to final inspection, where every inch of it is examined under a north light. Over these tables pass 50 miles or more of high-quality material every day, thoroughly checked for width, weight, color, evenness of embossing, and for surface appearance. Textile leather has completed its part of the job as the finished material moves away to any one of hundreds of different customers, where it will be used in fabricating one of many, many different products. Some of the versatile Mustang will go to the country's largest shoe factories, and there it will be cut into quarter linings, heel pads, and sock linings. They prefer it because Mustang has a rugged, long life, because up to 8 thicknesses can be cut at one time, and because there are no cutting losses due to surface imperfections and irregular shape, as there are with leather hides.
Here on a motion picture soundstage will be dramatized some of the many features of textile leather's peroxylin and vinyl materials, including famous Nijin Tolex with the exclusive Nijin fabric backing. You will see a few of the hundreds of products that use textile leather coverings, coverings with a beauty that's easy to keep fresh, a beauty that lasts. Many bookbinders use peroxylin-bound covers today because they tailor so easily, take a clean, sharp embossing, are pleasing to the touch, rich in appearance, durable, washable, and odorless. Tolex and Nijin Tolex give rigorous service of a far different kind, are frequently specified for smart cocktail loungers and other commercial uses, because they withstand flexing, folding, perspiration, abrasion, and alcohol. Tolex goes to sea because of its resistance to salt water, weathering, gasoline, cold cracking, and staining. And Tolex goes to school because it can take the punishment that's given to bus upholstery. Tolex, with its sturdy fabric backing, and Tolon, the all-vinyl material, are found in many places, made into belts that are rich, colorful, tough, and flexible. And into the smartest of shoes that are easy to fabricate, easy to keep clean, and highly resistant to stain and scuffing. Nijin Tolex also goes into the manufacture of handbags, beautiful in design and rich color. Yes, these textile leather materials can take a lot of punishment without showing it. They aren't easy to scuff, and they're very easy to keep clean with a few swishes of a damp cloth. Because of their durable beauty, textile leather's coverings are finding a great variety of uses. On pianos, on television sets, the list of applications continues to grow apparently without end. Uh-oh, what's happened over there? Nothing to worry about, because Nigen Tolex and Tolex get along very well with alcohol, as they do with flexing, folding, abrasion, and yes, Tolex can even be made fire-resistant. But as I was saying before, there doesn't seem to be any end to the list of ways these textile leather products can be used. Tolex is widely used for golf bags, and Mustang, tough as its name, for luggage that has the appearance and feel of natural hides, and peroxylin leather cloth, too, that textile leather has been making for more than 45 years.
Yes, add all this experience to that gained by production of vinyl fabrics beginning before World War II. And it isn't hard to understand why textile leather has a large production for luggage and shoes, why it is one of the leading suppliers to furniture manufacturers, and a pioneer and leading supplier to the automobile industry.
There's nothing to equal it when you're talking about automobile upholstery, not only for convertibles but also in hardtops, because it withstands the abuse of active living. Leading manufacturers use Tolex and Nigen Tolex in their most luxurious and highest priced models, and in the smartest station wagons. These materials are resistant to bad weather, to gasoline, stains, perspiration, and extreme cold. Many motorists also install seat covers of Tolex and Nigen Tolex over their conventional upholstery. The textile leather materials are used at the points of greatest wear because they are so durable.
Yes, textile leather materials are built to take a beating on footballs, football helmets, baby buggies. The list goes on and on. It's a little hard to know where we should stop talking about all the uses there are for textile leather products, because they have that extremely rare quality, a beauty that endures. And this beauty continues to spread into fields that seem almost without end, marking one more contribution of science to our way of life. From textile leather, a division of the General Tire and Rubber Company.